Vicky, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with the intention of what the government are trying to do here. Clearly, this is a very, very serious issue, long overdue, many would say. But is it not tricky making things like wolf whistling a crime in the sense that you start to go down a path where it becomes quite tricky to actually implement these laws or any possible laws?
Good morning, and thank you so much for raising that issue. If I may, just before I answer that particular question, I just want to reassure the public that this is a really, really radical strategy to tackle crimes that disproportionately affect women and girls. We have got work across all government departments because we have listened to the 180,000 people who responded to our survey earlier this year in the wake, as you say, of very, very tragic events. And we want to get away from this feeling that this behaviour is inevitable. We want this to be the decade of change. And there are lots and lots of ideas and suggestions that we've picked up, including, interestingly, a member of the public emailed me called Lucy, just as we were doing the survey. And she said, why don't we have a map that you can put a pin in to show where you feel unsafe? So you may not want to report it to the police, but just giving you the idea that that particular street feels a bit unsafe. So we're going to be launching that next month. We're really excited about it because we believe that way we can build a really good picture for the police. And as you say, one of the things we want to do is pursue perpetrators relentlessly. And so this new national policing lead will really, really help to achieve this. But turning to your question about wolf whistling, street harassment is one of the very, very important issues that arose through the survey, but also, of course, in our wider work. It is incredibly complex. So there are crimes that already exist, offences that already exist, that can tackle many of the behaviours that women feel so unsafe about and feel so unsure about. And so one of the things we're doing to tackle that is to have a comms campaign, a public campaign, whereby we help women and girls to understand what is unlawful, what they can do if they want to report it to the police, but also making it clear to the perpetrators that this behaviour is simply unacceptable. And we are also setting up a What Works fund. So we're trying to invest money into academic projects to see what we can do to stop people from behaving like this in the first place, as well as a lot of work in terms of education of children and younger people so that they understand this behaviour is unacceptable. But one of the complexities of street harassment is exactly the issue you've raised. There are behaviours that make us feel uncomfortable, we don't like them, but query whether they should be criminal. And this is part of the debate we're really wanting to have through this strategy about where we draw the lines in these offences. We clearly want to tackle the higher end of behaviours, but we do want to listen to women as to what other things we can do to try to stop the sorts of behaviours you've described in the street.
Vicky, good morning to you. I mean, a lot of girls, women will be very, will love this news today. I was interested, actually. You mentioned in this statement, and you mentioned a top police officer is going to be put in charge. Are you able to reveal if that is going to be a man or woman, in fact?
We've just announced it, so we haven't made any decisions yet, but we will be judging the applications on the merits of the applicants. So we will want a national policing lead who is absolutely determined to crack down on perpetrators. I mean, we've seen some terrible high-profile cases this year, really, really terrible cases. But we know, sadly, there are many, many more that perhaps don't reach the newspapers in the same way. And so we want every woman and girl to feel safe, both in their homes and outside their homes. And you'll know that earlier this year, we passed the landmark Domestic Abuse Act. That will do a huge amount to help victims of domestic abuse at home. But we want to extend that beyond the home now. And this is what this strategy is very much focused on.
How long will it take for women and girls around the country to see the impact from these changes? And how quickly do you want to see things implemented, Vicky?
Well, we've been very clear that this strategy has immediate, medium-term and longer-term consequences. So things like educating people, bringing about change to cultural attitudes, that will take a bit of time. But I visited a school only yesterday, a primary school, Uplands School in Sandhurst, and saw some of the safeguarding work that is already taking place through our mandatory relationships education, whereby these children are being taught in an age-appropriate way what is acceptable behaviour and what is not. And I genuinely believe when those children grow up, both boys and girls, they will have a different view as to how to treat each other in relationships than perhaps is the case with some people, a minority of people now. But there's also work ongoing with, as I say, the policing lead, with this map that we're pinning where people feel unsafe so that local police can then take action. That will be launched next month. But I'm seeing this whole decade, this is a strategy for the decade, and I want this to be the decade of change, whereby we don't have to have these sorts of conversations anymore.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.